Hey guys, Tony Bean came out with a beginner's guide about a month ago for Elsa Bloodstone, and I was inspired to pick her up and give her some more playtime. And over the course of that time, I've really grown to love her, kind of developed my own play style, and thought I would share some tips and tricks for the way that I approach this character. Here we are at the Ultimate Alliance of Evil Rift. I chose this rift because I think it showcases one of the things that I like most about Elsa. And that is when I play her, I feel like I'm playing the game that the game developers intended. I'm not trying to shortcut or cheat my way around game mechanics like spin to win or something like that. And her kit's really conducive to that kind of play because there's a lot of range and mobility built into her kit. So let's talk about what all we have here. Light attack, heavy attack, both have significant range. It's not as much as Hawkeye, but it is a significant amount. The last shot of her light attack sequence penetrates, and her heavy attacks hit in a small AoE. Her jump attack, I feel, is one of the most important parts of her kit, and we'll talk about that. It actually knocks enemies up and back a little bit, so if you're surrounded by minor mobs, you can jump attack and interrupt them, and it will keep you from being overwhelmed by them. And here's a tip for that. If you hold the block button, you can actually jump more frequently. You can still use directional input to guide your landing, but obviously you don't want to dash once you're on the ground. But you can still guide your landings, but if you're holding that block button, you'll be able to stay in the air quite a bit, and it allows you just to stomp enemies over and over again and build EP the whole time and generally not take a bit of damage while you're at it. The first skill we'll talk about is called Fully Stocked. It started out as my least favorite skill and became my favorite skill. It is Bash and Melee tagged. It has two big hits that kind of hit in an area, and those are followed by 3 directional gunshots. Originally, I felt this skill fell behind because it didn't do as much damage as Shotgun Blast. That was until I realized that you can actually use a jump attack to land after this skill completes. So you'll see me finish Ultron in that fashion here in a moment. And so you use Fully Stocked, you're in the air, you hit either light or heavy attack, you're going to return to the ground with your jump attack. And when you add in that aspect of damage to the attack sequence, you're actually going to exceed Shotgun Blast damage. Not only that, but if you're in a heavily populated area with lots of trash mobs, like say in Wakanda Wave or something, you can actually use that skill indefinitely as long as you return to the ground with jump attack, because you're getting enough EP return to just use it. You can just use it over and over again indefinitely. So Shotgun Blast, you'll see me use that. I'm using it right now. I'll take him out of the air with it. Fantastic skill. It's Bash, projectile tagged. It's a single shot. It's chargeable, fully charged. It does about 20% bonus damage. It penetrates and has a fairly wide path. It's great for trash, great for bosses. It's a fantastic skill. Double Barrel, the next skill, is a rapid fire projectile skill. I'll use that on some mindless ones here in a moment. I don't have much use for this skill. I feel that Shotgun Blast can do everything Double Barrel does, except it has a Bash tag, which I think in Elsa's case is better than the rapid fire tag. The reason I don't like the rapid fire tag on Elsa is because her rate of fire is too slow to really take advantage of combining her rapid fire with a barrage or area attack. If you compare her rapid fire combined with, say, Miss Marvel spin as compared to Wasp, you'll see what I mean very quickly. With Elsa, you'll see a couple of, say, 2000 Yala 2000 numbers pop up indicating the synergy damage. With Wasp, they're reeling off so fast you can't even see them all. You don't know how many there are. So it's simply the rate of fire isn't fast enough to really take advantage of those synergies, which kind of ruins that skill for me. Her last skill, Bullet Bombardment, is rapid fire, melee, and projectile tagged. So what I found is that skill actually has 2 damage zones. If you physically hit somebody, it's doing 1 amount of damage, and then the ranged part of that skill does another amount of damage. And the range is actually the higher amount of damage. That skill I find handy for instances like where I was fighting Maximus and Mysterio, and those little drones are everywhere. It's great for taking those drones out of the air and still maybe doing a little bit of damage to Mysterio and Maximus at the same time. With minor enemies, it'll create a little bit of space. So overall, I find it to be a very useful skill, even though I don't use it very often. So we'll talk about the composition I'm running here real quick. I've been pretty intensely insulted for running this composition, but this is the way I like to play Elsa, so that's how I'm going to do it. What they're bringing to the table, lots of stagger, number one. I'm not looking to switch characters and play high intensity here. I'm enjoying playing Elsa, so I want somebody to stagger these guys for me. I've got Hulk and Luke Cage and Wolverine. They're doing a pretty good job at chunking off these stagger bars. The other thing is, I've told you before, I like the bash tagged skills, so I built these teams around using those skills. So with bash, I like to either get the catalyst or the shockwave synergies. Catalyst comes from the elemental attacks, and then shockwave comes from combining with either slam or charge or bash or launch. Basically all 4 of Hulk skills and 3 of Luke Cage's, 3 of Wolverine's, and then the other skill of Luke Cage and Wolverine will synergize with her rapid fire. So that's the reason I put this team together the way I did. There's not really any team bonus there, but I'm getting what I want from them. And it also, when I was talking about the stagger earlier, the reason I wanted to get these enemies staggered, it was so I could get my crit rate up. I'm not using crit ISO, so I wanted to stagger these enemies to land a lot of crit attacks on them. So lastly, let's talk about the ISO that I like to use on Elsa. I like percent damage to enemies. I've got that melee and that range tag. I like percent damage to enemies. Percent damage when EP is less than 50%, I've actually found is pretty good on her. Or, not and, but or energy capacity in general, just to spam more attacks. Strength, obviously. Damage resistance and percent HP every 10 seconds. Those are pretty much the only ISO I use on her. So it's not real complicated. I hope you guys enjoyed this and found it helpful, and I will see you next time.